Hi everyone, we're at the Bean on 2nd Avenue in New York City with Siddharth Mitra, the mathematician, the physicist, the explorer, and for the most part a software engineer, and we're going to get his opinion on Love Child, the movie, rather the film that's been making waves across the gaming industry. Siddharth, do you think the message in Love Child is correctly placed in that the gaming industry ought to be a bit more, a bit more mindful with the way in which they reach youngsters and influence them?
Yes, the gaming industry does reach us in ways which we do not understand, and therefore they should be mindful. There are several ways the gaming industry attracts us. One is just the presentation, and the other is this addiction. And I was a gaming addict at one point. I spent 2 years of my life, I did nothing but play games. I sometimes play like 13 hours a day. And it just, it's a high, but I do not remember anything of those 2 years. It's like having an addiction. And so if the gaming industry, wants to help today's youth who play a lot of computer games, they should be aware of these potential, how that hurts the society in the long run.
So Siddharth, as a physicist, would you be able to comment on the addiction part of it a little bit more? I know that you mentioned that you don't remember those 2 years at all. Can we get into the psyche of your mentality at that point? What did you think? What was going on in your mind or in your brain?
Well, when I was playing the game, it's Tetris. I was playing like 13 hours a day straight. And what would happen is, I wanted a high score, and actually I was competing with someone who would also play so many hours a day. But even then, it's a state where when you play at that, very fast games, these video games, you have to put all your mind into it. Like, your concentration cannot waver, and your fingers have to move with it. So in that way, nothing else really can go on in your mind. If it does, then it's a problem.
So there's no room for anything? No dialogue, no conversation?
No.
No duties to be fulfilled?
No.
Interesting.
But I would mention that, in today's games like, World of Warcraft or other interactive games, people do take on persona, which is different from earlier games like Space Invaders or Pac-Man. You could empathize with the Pac-Man, or even Tetris, or Minesweeper, or those earlier Atari games, and I think after that. So when you take on a persona, you might try to, and if that person has some character, you might try to identify with that, which could be different. But I hadn't really got into that kind of game. I played Prince of Persia, but that's.
What's Tetris about?
Tetris is about falling blocks. There are 7 different shapes, and you have to rotate these blocks so that they fit in each other, and if all blocks fit in a line, then the line disappears. It was discovered by a Russian mathematician called Alexei Pajitnov, and who never made any money off it. I think if he made even like a millionth of a billionth of a penny for every Tetris game played, he would be a very, very wealthy person. Because it's still popular after almost 30 years or 20 years or 25 years.
And what would you say is the addictive or the addiction about Tetris? Is it fitting those blocks in a line, or is it a drive to want to get something finished, or is it that there's no room for any other thought but to make that line complete and make it disappear?
a sense, it is about how long you can sustain yourself. I mean, beyond a point. I mean, when you do that, of course, it's to make one line disappear. But then it comes down to, can you hold your thoughts for 2 hours and do nothing? I mean, just hold, like, it is a kind of a Zen thing, I would say. As opposed to, again, I would go to like role playing or other kind of games where there's an objective, you fulfill that objective. Here, the objective, there is no end to it. It is forever. You can keep on doing this forever.
It's like an unfinished painting. You have to.
Even a painting has a form, a shape, it goes somewhere. I mean, even if you play 10 hours of Tetris, there is nothing. It's like what they say, a Bernoulli trial in statistics. Like, you repeat it the next time, it's a new trial. When you toss a coin, it's a new toss.
That's interesting. There's nothing. There's nothing to gain except the addiction, perhaps.
Except feeding your addiction. That's it.
You mentioned something interesting while you were explaining the addiction about Tetris, that you akin it to a state of Zen.
Mm-hmm.
Would you elaborate on that?
It is just like when other thoughts, other worries, they disappear. And I think that's the same when you take any drug or heroin or LSD. I mean, I've never really experimented. But,
could there be a meditative quality to it? Is that what we're seeking as human beings?
I mean, I would think drugs put you in a meditative, trance. I mean, I don't see how it is different. I mean, in a sense, how drugs and meditation, they just take you out of your worries and give you some sort of mental peace, mental quietude. I do not know how to define mental peace, but certainly it takes out other thoughts in your mind. And maybe at that point the subconscious does something else.
What does it do you think?
I don't know, maybe I have no idea what the subconscious does. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if the subconscious is happy with me playing Tetris. Maybe it wants to do something else, but it just doesn't have a place in my conscious. It can't pop any messages then. And I mean, now I play chess and I know it's the same addiction. I do the same thing, but at least it's in a more controlled manner and it's a bit less.
I guess that's what they say about addiction as well. You have to find a substitute or,
yes.
Something else to replace it.
Yes.
How would you say you got out of the addiction? Pardon me. How would you say you got out of the addiction, if that was the case to begin with?
When I came to the US after I played Tetris and did a bit of my work in India.
And you've been in the United States for 18 years, correct?
18 years, since 97. Let's go to 18. So what happened was I had to actually, work, and it was difficult to play computer games at work. So what I would do is that I had my computer set up so that I would come home and play 2 to 3 hours. But then some circumstances changed, my mother came and stayed with me. So it became difficult to actually play the game, and that way the addiction is gone. It was gone. But I didn't really